Today's episode of The Shift is sponsored by the Ultimate Faith Store. This store carries faith-based apparel and accessories for men, women, and children. To purchase an item from the Ultimate Faith Store, please use the link attached to this episode and use the code JCamille for 10% off. Now, back to the episode, Jay. Welcome to The Shift, a podcast here to help you adjust to the new. I'm your host, Jay Camille. If this is your first time watching, be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel, follow my Facebook page, and keep up with The Shift on Instagram. This podcast is here to help you get through anything, everything, all things new. Whether it means moving to a new city, starting a new career, getting through a new relationship, or even getting through new tough times such as anxiety and depression. So get ready, get set, and let's shift. See you guys soon. Hi, everyone. So, welcome to The Shift. It is your host, Jay Camille, back for another episode. Thank you all for tuning in last week to our first episode, where this season we are talking about shifting out of shock. So, as you know, we are going through a pandemic, and there are a lot of people who are in a stuck state in life. They could be dealing with depression, anxiety, PTSD, trauma, or job loss, or the loss of a loved one. So, in this season, we really want to tackle those things and help people get out of that state where they feel like they're stuck. And so in this season, we are talking about shifting out of shock. And last week, we talked with someone who had dealt with job loss, and then they now were stepping into their purpose and their assignment. And this week, we will be talking with a special host and author who is going to talk to us about shifting out of depression and using that with the art of meditation. So today I'm going to bring on special guest Jay Spillers. Jay, welcome to The Shift. Thank you for joining us on the air today. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, my name is Jay Spillers, and I live in Montana. I've written a couple books. I practiced law in Utah for several years, and now I'm just working on writing, and I'm trying to put together a course based on the book that I've written recently on meditation. Um, I have I'm married, and I have a son, 7 years old, and we just uh, we just live out here in Anaconda, Montana.
Awesome. Well, thank you for joining us on The Shift today. So, as we know, or as I know through our discussion, you wrote a book called Meditation for Everyone, and it says how to live a quickly more peaceful, mindful, and fulfilled life. Can you give us a little history about what made you write this book?
Yeah, I've had an interest in meditation for several years. I've been meditating for over 15 years, and I've looked at different styles and ways of meditating. And I thought I would write a book on meditation to help people um, through meditation deal with things like depression and stress and um, just live a more fulfilled, peaceful life. Because a lot of the issues that we have emotionally and physically, psychologically can be helped through the practice of meditation. It's even helped with things like PTSD and chronic pain and uh, things like that. So there's a lot of ways that meditation can help people in their day to day living.
Absolutely. And I'm glad, just one, to have even connected with you, and then two, that you wrote a book on something that is so popular and talked about, but not necessarily explained. Oftentimes, we hear about the art of meditation with yoga or in spiritual practices, but no one really ever stops to explain what it is or even how it helps with mental illnesses. So, just being that you're an expert in this area, considering that you wrote a book on meditation, can you kind of explain to us what meditation is a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, there's different understandings of what meditation is. I understand it as um, for me, it's not about emptying the mind and trying to just clear everything out. That is a form of meditation that some people practice and teach. But the kind of meditation I teach is more of a focus where you're in a highly relaxed state, but you're aware. Your mind and body are fully relaxed, but you're aware and you're focused on something. And it could be
Mm.
anything of a positive nature, is what I teach. So, like, I've taught on, you can meditate on different things like love, compassion, peace. Um, if you're a person of faith, you could meditate on scripture. You could meditate on even a poem or anything like that that's positive. And I kind of, I don't necessarily meditate on just one word, kind of like a mantra, but I kind of meditate on different things and move around when I'm meditating, you know. And so I think it's more of a focus, and it's able to get yourself um, clear in terms of what's important to you in your life and putting affirming values in. You can improve things like gratitude, and I incorporate in my book like three basic principles for meditation, which is stillness, mindfulness, and then affirmations with gratitude. And so the
That's good.
practice that I do is pretty simple and pretty open. It's not like because some schools of meditation will be like, okay, you do this one word, say it over and over, or you just focus on breath. I focus. I do give attention to things like breath, but I'm not sort of like there's one little trick and that's all you do. I sort of mix it up a little bit in meditation and sort of keep it, easier for people to do than just saying one word over and over or something like that. So I think it's a practice that people could probably more easily do, and it's something that I think a lot of people could relate to the way I teach it.
Absolutely. And I love how you just went into it a little bit because essentially what I grasped from what you said was to empty out the negative and pour in on the positive. So empty out those negative thoughts and pour in on positive thoughts, as you mentioned, love, joy, gratitude. And you said stillness, mindfulness, and affirmation. So, if I think on that in my day to day life, if something's going on wrong around me, I
Affirmation.
can affirmation, yes. Still, I can be still. I can, one, be mindful of what's around me and what is being poured into me in that moment, how I'm feeling, and then really affirm myself on positive things. So I love that you went into that. And speaking of positivity, because I know that just from us having a one-on-one, there was some negativity that you had went through. And you talked to me about how you dealt with depression and then you used meditation to help with that. So what pushed you to know that meditation was a remedy for your depression?
Well, I had researched online a little bit and knew that depression had been people had received help from depression with meditation. And I started in 2005, but it was 2008 I started to feel a lot of depression. I was alone, single. I felt like I was kind of shut out from life, and um, even sometimes to the point of being suicidal. And I
Mhm,
wasn't consistent with my meditations. But
mhm,
at least I noticed when I did meditate, I would feel better and that it would help me in the moment. But when I was able to get more consistency, I would notice that it wasn't just a short-term assistance when you were feeling bad, but it would be more long-term and carry you through the day. And it's sort of a practice that builds, sort of like working out. That the more you work out and the more consistent you are, the stronger and healthier you get. You can get some benefit, of course, just from meditating here or there, but you won't get the full benefit without the consistency. And as I started to get more consistent, um, things like depression started to go down. And now I don't ever, have those types of feelings anymore. And I think that meditation is a practice that could help a lot of people in terms of depression. And, even when you're to the point of feeling suicidal or things like that. And kind of surprising how many people in our society you'll hear people talking that this person was suicidal or they had to, call 911, and um, how prevalent it really is in our society. And that if you could grasp something that's as simple as meditation, I think it could probably help a lot of people in that respect.
Absolutely. I completely agree. And just from listening to you, it sounds like there's more benefit by doing meditations daily than just doing it as needed. Not saying it may not help when you do it as needed, but that you'll get the full effect when you practice it daily. Is that kind of along the lines of what you were saying?
Yeah, and I really emphasize being consistent, having a daily routine that I go through in my book, trying to help people set up a game plan to have a certain time and have a certain place that they're going to meditate and to think through these things and um, plan for contingencies like what if this comes up? What if family's visiting? What if this is going on? To sort of plan it out to make sure that you get a meditation every day. And I say to ultimately work up to at least about 30 minutes. And I know that sounds like
Mhm.
a lot. And I know that some people will say 5 or 10 minutes you can meditate. And I think you can get a lot of benefit from meditating 5 to 10 minutes a day. But I think to get the full effect, 30 minutes is the best. And what I'd suggest in my book is if you've never meditated, is maybe start with 5 minutes and start meditating for 5 minutes and just sort of gradually add to it, maybe like a minute a day. And if you were able to
Yeah.
add a minute a day starting at 5 minutes, you would be at 30 minutes in less than a month. And I also talk about a practice that I do sometimes is mini meditations where you take like 1 to 3 minutes. You could sit down, you could do a few deep breaths, put some meditative type music on, even classical or something like that for that brief time, and just do a mini meditation where you do the same thing. It's just 1 to 3 minutes. And sometimes if people could do mini meditations during their downtime or you know, find times throughout the day to do that, that can sort of help prepare them for a more formal, lengthier meditation uh, session, as those mini meditations. It can
Absolutely.
also help
And
too, like if you're particularly stressed in a moment. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. I agree. And, as much as how you said maybe people could make 30 minutes of meditation sound like something so big, I don't think it is. If people really stopped and evaluated their time, um, the average person probably spends 2 hours at least on social media each day. And that's a combination of TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, and their few swipes that they think isn't that much time, it actually adds up to a lot of time. So, doing 30 minutes of something that's positive and pouring into you and helping shift your mind that will help your entire day, your entire 24 hours, I think it's worth it. And I think that it's something that people can really make into their schedule and it not be something so hard. And especially just considering what you just mentioned with the mini meditations. If someone did 10 mini meditations, that easily adds up to 30 minutes and it takes no time at all. Someone could be on their way taking a break from work or on their way to the restroom and they just went to grab a cup of coffee or some water and go and have a quick mini meditation. And usually I would think doing those things throughout your day would help keep you in a positive mindset throughout the day, which means that positivity is coming in and positivity is going out as you interact with others. So I actually think that's a really great thing and something I might even put into practice is to do more like mini meditations that it adds up to the 30 minutes and I not even realize it. So you hit on something, Jay, and I wanted to kind of come back and ask this question. So you talked about how meditation can really help our society, and you were saying just with everything that goes on in our society nowadays, that it could really help people with what they're going through and experiencing in today's world. And being that this season is about getting through the pandemic and helping people get out of a state of shock, How do you think that the art of meditation can help people in this pandemic? And if you have an excerpt from your book, feel free to give us one of those samples really quick.
Yeah, I think that sometimes looking within and reflecting, and I actually had a section. I think I wrote this last year, and it was, you have those feelings like and it's kind of downer. But I had this section called "Within and in the Moment." I'll just go ahead and read it. As I write this book, we are living through a global pandemic caused by a deadly virus. Governments around the world have largely shut down economies and society and have mandated that people stay within their homes. These times have been trying for me and many others. It has challenged everything I've been writing about in this work. It's easy to be mindful, grateful, and still when things are going well. But what about when the world literally is falling apart? I do hope whenever you're reading this that you find yourself in better times. But whatever struggles you are going through, globally or personally, two things that can help is to look within and take each moment. To find stillness, ultimately, you have to find it within yourself because, let's face it, the world around you may be anything but still. To look within your soul to find true peace, joy, happiness, and love. This is where it truly originates. If you can find stillness or anything of value within, you can find the calmness you want and be able to meditate regardless of circumstance. You can find that life is in meditation. When governments and circumstance are restricting your external freedoms, it's if a person can find freedom within, no one can take that away from you. No one can take your peace or stillness away if it comes from within. We have discussed that mindfulness is within and in the moment, but so is anything of value that we cherish, such as being still, to take each moment and the mind and be mindful of it, and then to step back and allow your being to be calm and take in whatever you can find that makes you happy or at rest is so important today. It may be as simple as taking the moment to fully enjoy playing a board game with your child, to reflect on it within yourself and embrace that moment. Sometimes within yourself and in the moment is really the only control you have in life. But if you can acquire that, you have everything. Without it, you will be constantly searching for meaning, peace, and happiness. Find the
Mhm.
stillness in spite of whatever is going on around you by quieting the mind and body. That was kind of a long piece, but I'd actually written that directly about the pandemic in my book. Um, I find it within and yeah.
I think that's great. And especially when you talked about finding the freedom within, finding the stillness within. And there was a line that said, everything you need is within yourself. I really loved that. And I really love the example that you gave of like taking the time to be present. And maybe it's taking the time to fully play the board game that you enjoy or do painting that you enjoy or whatever it is that you enjoy, like taking that time to be present. And oftentimes I kind of use in my analogy of it is sometimes you have to disconnect to reconnect. So sometimes you have to shut off the phones, shut off the laptops, shut off whatever it is. And even if it's not technology, whatever it is that's getting inside of you, that's drowning um, your happiness and your joy, disconnect from those things and reconnect with yourself, reconnect with the positivity and the light and the things that are making you feel happy and joyful in that moment. So, thank you for sharing your excerpt with us. That was great. I enjoyed it and I definitely loved hearing it. So, listeners, if that's something you enjoyed as well, I completely recommend going to purchase his book, and I will be dropping that link with this post. So, Jay, another question, because as again, we talked about you dealing with depression and that this is something that helps those who deal with mental illnesses as well as those who practice spiritual beliefs. It helps everyone. But would you say that meditation is something that can be an alternative to meditation for mental to medication for mental illness, or is it something that would be a supplement to mental illness? What would you say?
Well, I discuss that in my book, and I think for some people it may be uh, a complete substitute for medication. Um, and in some cases, it can be in conjunction with medication. And I do mention in my book that if you're on medication for something now, you probably want to talk to your doctor first. And if you decide that with your doctor's advice that you can go off medication to taper off slowly and don't just, suddenly go off your medication as you start to meditate. But yeah, I promote it as it could be a substitute, but it could also be in conjunction with. And if you're already
Mhm.
on medication, to definitely talk to your doctor and take things slowly because sometimes going off certain medications too rapidly can have dire consequences. But yeah, I mean, I think that it can be very helpful with medication or in substitution of it.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. So definitely that's something worth following up on with your doctor. But for people who you may feel like your loved one or your child has a mental illness and maybe perhaps you can't afford the medication yet. I know not everyone has like insurance or whatever the case may be. It doesn't hurt to just try meditation in the meantime, while you're waiting for the doctor's appointment to get set, because I know a lot of people's doctor's appointments have been pushed back with COVID. In the meantime, try meditation. I mean, what is it going to hurt? And it's pouring in positivity. So it may make things better while you're waiting to talk to the doctor as well. So, yeah, thank you, Jay, for that tip. And we are going to take a brief pause and get a note from one of our sponsors. We'll be right back. Today's episode of The Shift is sponsored by the Ultimate Faith Store. This store carries faith based apparel and accessories for men, women, and children. Their foundation scripture is Matthew 17:20, which reads, "Faith can move mountains." Up to 15% of all purchases are donated to charities, small communities, and people in need around the world. To purchase an item from the Ultimate Faith store, please use the link attached to this episode and the code JCamille for 10% off. Now, back to you, Jay. Wow. Well, we are almost done with the end of our podcast episode. And again, Jay, I just wanted to thank you for your time. This is Jay and Jay. So I'm Jay Camille, and this is Jay Spillers, the author of Meditation for Everyone: How to Quickly Have a More Peaceful, Mindful, and Fulfilled Life. So before we close, Jay, what three tips or pieces of advice would you give a listener tuning into this episode today?
Well, I would say to start small, just like what we said to do, even if you can start with 5 minutes a day, and start with little mini meditations throughout the day to help work up and to um, to uh, just start to practice stillness within you. If you can just sit still, and if you can take a few deep breaths, you breathe in through your nose, hold for 8 seconds, and then release and breathe 5 to 10 times like that. And start to look for ways to incorporate meditation in your life, like visualization can also help to imagine yourself like calm and at peace. These kind of things, simple, and starting with visualization and starting with um, breath can sort of help to introduce you to the practice of meditation. Um, that's probably what I would say just to start.
I love it. And yes, I completely agree. Definitely start small, start where you can, start with what works for you. And I know I'm going to take into account after talking with you today the mini meditations. That is something I'm probably going to start adding to my day from now on. It's just really stepping away and stepping aside to be still, to be mindful, and to practice affirmations. And if I must add anything to what you stated today, in addition to starting small and practicing stillness, mindfulness, and affirmation, I would say look for positivity, because oftentimes, in what you expressed, dealing with depression or just anything in general, oftentimes our mind automatically goes towards that situation and we magnify the problem rather than the solution or even just the positivity that's happening around us. So I remember when I was growing up as a child, I could have a birthday party and I would invite 25 people to my birthday party. But if one person wasn't there and it just so happened to be my best friend in the whole world, it didn't matter about the other 24 people that were there or my family or the gifts or anything else, because I magnified that that one person wasn't there and that they weren't in the room. And now that I've gotten older, I'm able to kind of, like you said, pull back, be still and be mindful. And I can affirm myself by saying, okay, even if that one person isn't here, look at who is here. Look at the positivity that is around me. Look at the great things that are happening. And I think that helps in any situation, whether you're dealing with depression or not. And if it's just a life situation where something really goes to get you down and in negative spirits, I would definitely say to step back and have a little mini meditation and to look for the positivity. Don't just illuminate the problem, but illuminate the solution, which, like you mentioned in your book, is found within yourself. So, thank you again, Jay, for your time. Thank you for joining us on the air. That is all from me. I'm your host, Jay Camille, and we will see you guys next week. I'm Jay Camille. Be sure to follow us on social media. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And I will see you all next week.